Okay, so let's get back to Eric B. and Rakim, the album Paid in Full. I've mentioned it, but I didn't really go into too much detail. Now, of course, this was a crazy album, crazy influential on the hip hop community. You know, Rakim considered one of the greatest, prolific MCs, especially with the release of this album and the rhymes that he was speaking on this album. And this is like 1987. He just totally changed the game of rhyming. Nas is a protege of not a direct protege, but Nas definitely, took his style from Rakim. Nas definitely took his style from Kool G Rap and combined the two, and even took Rakim's smooth voice along with it and became Nas. So, but anyway, so with the release of this album, Paid in Full, now you have to realize this is like even before the album came out, they had released Eric B. as President, which on the B side of that was the song My Melody. And then they released I Got Soul, maybe like a year later. So with this album, and then they had the video to move the crowd to actually introduce the coming of the release of the album. So they had released 4 songs before the album actually hit you. So when you bought the album, you're like, and you're listening to it because you don't know what they expect. You're thinking like, hey, they released these 4 songs. Maybe they're going to make another 10, or maybe they're going to make another brand new 5 or 6 songs to make 10 songs, and we're going to have, a good, great album experience with the 4 songs that we already know, and then some new joints. But what they did was, so one of the new songs was Paid in Full, which wasn't actually a song at all. What Paid in Full was like an interlude, but at the time, before interludes, it was like parlayed into a whole song. Like I can say the whole song right now, like thinking of a master plan. Cause ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands. So I look into my pockets, all my money is spent. So I dig deeper, but still coming up with lint. So I start my mission, leave my presidents, thinking how could I get some dead presidents? I need money. I used to be a stick up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. I used to roll up. This is the hold up. Ain't nothing funny. Stop smiling, cause still don't nothing move but the money. But now I learn to earn cause I'm righteous. I feel great, so maybe I might just search for a 9 to 5. And if I strive, then maybe I'll stay alive. But I walk up the street whistling this, feeling out of place, cause man do I miss a pen and a paper, a stereo, a tape of me and Eric B and a nice big plate of fish, which is my favorite dish. But without the money it's still a wish, cause I don't like to dream about getting paid. So I dig into the books of the rhymes that I've made, tune out a test to see if I got pulled. Hit the studio, cause I'm paid in full. And then had the crazy beat that and then at the end of that, Eric B comes in talking, his girl is mad because it took them too long to make the album, so we got to get out of here. And then they go to talk about, hey, yo, Eli, turn the bass down, let the beat keep on rocking. And what happened to peace, 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 peace? And the song is over. It took me like 45 seconds to do the whole record, right? So that wasn't even actually a record, but it was a record. And then in addition to that, they had like 2 instrumentals, like these whack instrumentals with Eric B scratching, these whack instrumental scratch records that they had on there. And then they had like another record, which was The Rhyme Goes On. That was like a crazy smooth track, and Eric B was just rhyming. He was just rhyming through the whole song. Like I don't even know why rappers don't do that anymore. They used to like take a song, a 3 or 4 minute song, and just rhyme the whole way through. And it would just come out as smooth, and you listen to the lyrics, you're bobbing to the lyrics, and the song goes on, and boom, it goes off. Now everything is, a verse, a hook, verse, hook, verse, hook, verse, hook, boom, boom, boom. But there were songs back in the day, like I had a couple on my demos, like I used to call them, my first songs that I did like that, I called it the continuous rap, and I just rhymed straight for like 4 minutes straight, and then faded it out. So they used to do that back in the day. I don't know why they don't do it anymore, but anyway. And and then like one of the rhymes, actually 2 rhyme patterns were really crazy on that album. One I used to know back when I was listening to the album, because I really liked The Rhyme Goes On. So it was like when he was talking about performing on stage, he says the only time I stop is when somebody drop, and then bring them to the front because my rhyme's the oxygen. Now just think about that. That's back in 1986. You got some rappers today that I don't know, they won't or they can't even spit a rhyme like that, right now. And this was like in 1986. And then another rhyme that I caught from one of the tracks was, I caught this rhyme like in 2004 when I'm listening in my car. And I hadn't caught it back in the 80s or the 90s. This is 2000, and I'm listening to this record, and this rhyme just hits me. And I'm like, what did he say? And I'm rewinding it a couple of times. I'm trying to get it. And he was like, it's an actual fact. It's not an act. It's been proven indeed, and I proceed to make the crowd keep moving. Did you hear that? Like, woo! I'm like, woo! So I'm like, no wonder they used to say that Rakim was like this prolific, one of the greatest rhymers of all time, because he's coming with this back in 1986. You got to remember. So, and it's 2004, that some people still haven't gotten what he said back in 2006. Now, that's some rhyming for your ass right there. But anyway, so that was a real influential album that had a great influence on the hip-hop community, had a great influence on me, as you can tell. And then their second album, Follow the Leader, which came out in like 1988. I mentioned it, but I didn't go into too much detail. So this album was in the same format, the same formula as the first one. Only thing different was that they hadn't released like 5 singles before they actually released the album. They had only released 1 single, which was Follow the Leader, to introduce the album. So Follow the Leader was a crazy track in the spirit of Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible wasn't out back then, but had some crazy Mission Impossible track that Rakim that Eric B had produced, and Rakim is going off on the rhymes. He's like, "This is a take. I wasn't supposed to break. I was supposed to wait, but let's motivate." So actually, I guess that meant that when he actually recorded the rhyme for the actual record, it was supposed to be practice, but he was like, no, we keeping this track right here, and he kept it, and so that's how it was. Another crazy track on that album was Doing It With the R. Now this track had, the crazy, I used to like the beats where they would like triple up the snare, do a roll on the snare, so you get the point. But that had that type of beat on there, and it had the crazy just synthesizer, the crazy beat, the doom 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 doom. Now you're doing it with the R, the R, the R. To the Queen's Posse. See, this is why, like, I'm in New York to this day, because listening to all of these East Coast rhymes, and they like Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan. It's like, this is getting into my system, and like by the time I was graduating high school, it's like, man, I got to get to New York, and then I wanted to be a rapper and a producer too. It's like, so I'm here. None of that happened, but still, I'm thankful for my life. I'm thankful for being here. I'm thankful for the experiences that I've had while I was here. But hip hop actually basically just dragged me from Warren, Ohio to New York. There's a funny story. I won't get into that right now. We'll tell that story later. That actually I drove, the first time I drove to New York, I drove all by myself, all alone, nobody, no friends, didn't even know how to get here, but I got here. And so the music, the hip hop music just kind of just took me, tapped me on my shoulder and warned like, Michael, come on, you're going to New York. Get your ass out of here. Get up, get going. But anyway, so the Follow the Leader album was crazy too. It had like I said, it had about 4 crazy tracks. Lyrics of Fury was a real crazy track, using the funky drummer beat, kind of sped up, and then Eric B. Rakim is rhyming crazy fast, tripling up his styles and whatnot. He actually screwed up a rhyme on there where he said slight. He was trying to say strike like lightning, but he said slight like lightning, and he went on with his rhyme. They never stopped him and said, wait a minute, you have to do that over. You pronounced the word wrong. But if you listen to it, go back. He says slight like lightning. He didn't say strike like lightning. I guess that's a tongue twister when you really think about it, and he couldn't get it as he's trying to perform and rhyme the record. And then, of course, the other crazy record, I Was the Fiend Before I Became a Teen. Did it like pieces of puzzle, complicated. Don't remember the lyrics, but that was a crazy track on the record as well. They actually produced that as a single in a video they had with the little crazy cute kid. I kick a hole in the speaker, pull the plug, then I jet back to the lab without the mic to grab. So then I add all the rhymes I had, one after another one, and asked if the brother's done. So that was a real crazy track on the album as well. Like I said, they had about 4 or 5 good tracks. They had an instrumental for the listeners was this crazy smooth kind of slowed down track. Rakim was killing the lyrics over that track. They had that song, the instrumental to that song was on the album, and then they had another one of those whack DJ scratch records on the album. And then they had this record, Put Your Hands Together. I never really liked that record, but whatever. They had that on the album. And so But it still turned out to be a great album, a great influential album that was rocking back in 1988 to 1989. That was a real hard album by Eric B and Rakim. So their first two albums like really placed a mark on the hip hop community, placed the mark on me, and it was fly.